So unless you've been living under a rock, you've heard that home prices are down and so are rents. And I think this begs the classic question then, what makes more sense? In this kind of market, should you be buying or should you be renting? Hi, I'm Ming from Volition Properties, where we help you make smarter real estate moves. And today I'm here again with Matt, and we're going to break down whether you should be buying, whether you should be renting, or maybe do neither. Anyway, let's get into it.
Thanks, Ming. I'm Matt from Volition Properties. Yeah, so this is a question we get a lot. And although we're framing this in the context of property prices are down and rents are down, actually, you're going to see that that doesn't change the equation at all. Here's the funny thing. Here's something that we've known for a very long time as astute real estate investors. Single-family homes as an investment don't make any good investment sense. It doesn't make good investment sense. And the question is why? We've known this for a long time. The rent generated from a single-family home investment is not enough rent to carry the property. You'll be massively cash flow negative as an investor and as a landlord. So it's not a good deal for you as an investor to buy a single family home and rent it out as an investment property. But on the flip side, it's a great deal if you're a tenant, right? So one quick example. So I had an advisory session with a client and he was just saying, hey, I'm renting this home in Markham for $3,700. Does this make sense? Or am I just pissing this money away? Does this make any real sense? Should I think about buying a primary residence instead? And something that you and I have said for a very long time, Ming, is that your primary residence is a luxury item, right? And so we've known that. A lot of people think that their primary residence is, a great investment. And it's really not. Not in this sense. Of course, it can go up in value and all that stuff, but let me walk you through this example. Maybe we can see why. So this client, he's renting this home for $3,700. I asked him, the first question I asked him was, this home that you're renting, if you were to buy it, how much is it worth? And he said, I don't know, like $2 million. Okay. But now you've got this home that when you rent, you're renting for $3,700 a month. Is that big enough for you, Ming? Ming told me to write larger.
The artwork is impeccable.
Oh, of course. I know this is my art school training coming through right here. Okay. Now, if you were to buy this sucker, you're buying it for $2 million, right? But when you buy, what that actually entails is a down payment of about $400,000, assuming an 80% loan-to-value mortgage. And then your mortgage is $1.6 million, right? With me so far? So this mortgage at today's interest rates is roughly $7,500 a month, right? And on top of that, you've got insurance, call it $200 a month. And you've got property taxes, $400 a month. So roughly speaking, you're at $8,000 a month in your monthly costs just to carry the home. On top of that, you got maintenance and repair. Furnace goes, roof goes. That's on you. You own the home, right? If you're a tenant, that's not on you, right? You just call up the landlord and say, hey, my roof's leaking or my furnace is out. But as an owner, it's on you. So you've got maintenance and repair on top of this. So I'll say plus maintenance and repair. Undefined number, you could probably put $500 a month aside or something like that. Yeah, let's call it $500 a month right now, right? Maintenance and repair. And then you have the opportunity cost. The opportunity cost on what? The opportunity cost on the down payment. And if we just said that's a 10% a year opportunity cost, that's $40,000 a year, which we know is about $3,500 a month. So add this all up. What do you got? You got $3,500. You have $8,000 plus the $500 plus you're at like $12,000 a month. This is the cost. If you were to buy, this is your monthly costs. Versus renting for $3,700. So hopefully this illustrates what the problem is with ownership. Ownership costs a lot more than renting. But of course, there's a bunch of intangibles, right? It's like, well, I want to feel more settled. I don't want my landlord to ever evict me or have his child move into the home and now I'm displaced. And so there's a lot of intangibles there. But, and then an argument is a lot of people say, oh, well, I grow an equity in my home, right? And it's a good investment because my equity grows. Here's what I would say. If you're thinking about this from the perspective of the home prices eventually rising over time? Absolutely. We at the end of the day, we're in real estate because we believe real estate is a great asset class. But it doesn't necessarily have to be your primary residence. Now, if you were to take that same $400,000 down payment and you were to put that into let's just say a triplex, 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units. So again, this is a $2 million asset. Let me ask you a question, Ming. $2 million asset. How much can you get in rent these days for something like that?
If we split it up into 3 units, we're
three
looking...
units, 4 units.
Yeah, I mean, I would model between 8,500 to 10,000.
Yeah. We've seen $2 million assets closer to the $10,000 a month mark.
And they can definitely get more than that, but to be conservative and have easy math.
Yeah, exactly. The point is that it makes a lot more sense to use that money to buy an investment property that will carry itself, be at least cash flow neutral, and probably even a little bit cash flow positive in today's environment. And then you're hedged. You're hedged against runaway real estate prices. So you're not completely out of the real estate game. You just happen to be getting a great deal where you want to live for your primary residence, and you still have an asset that's hedged against the real estate market in the event that prices actually do rise. Because you don't want to be in a situation where you don't own anything and then prices escalate and now you're completely priced out.
Yeah, that is basically what I did, right? So you were asking earlier, when is the do nothing approach? So let me layer that in a bit. When I first graduated, I was living in Waterloo. I had investment properties out there. Then I moved to Toronto and I actually lived with my parents for a while. So at 21, before I even started buying a place to live, my first home purchase was an investment property. And then I continued to be a renter. And then as my job shifted, I was like either living at home or I was living downtown. But I was never a homeowner until I was into my 30s, my early 30s. And only then did I shift to buying my own place. And during, from my 20s into my 30s, I got more investment properties. It was a bit of a different time. It was a little easier to get mortgages then. But the idea, I think, stays the same today, where your funds are going towards investments, so that way your money's still used well. But your personal residence, basically being a luxury, you're trying to minimize it. Like with all luxury items, luxury spending, don't live beyond your means there. Don't spend for your personal situation beyond your means. And if you can keep it down, like I was staying with my parents for a bit, but by 23, 24, that wasn't so cool anymore. I was renting with friends. And then when I did buy my personal residence, it was very much about keeping costs down. Mm-hmm. So I bought a 1-bedroom condo in the city, not even in the city, in North York, because it was at the time one of the cheaper areas. I could keep my monthly payments low and I could continue to be a real estate investor. And the ratio of investments that I have today versus what I spend personally, it's 3 or 4 times higher in what I would spend on investment properties versus what I spend on personal. And I think that's a good, call it, ratio or benchmark to look towards as you're executing plans like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And the condo example is another prime example. Imagine, $600,000 condo, your mortgage payment is probably going to be, in the range of around $3,000 plus your condo fees and your property taxes. Your cost to carry that property is probably $3,500, somewhere in that range. But if you were to rent that out, you could only get $2,500 in rent. So you're cash flow negative $1,000 if you're the investor. If you're the renter, then different story. You're getting a great deal, right? It's funny because a lot of tenants are complaining about how high rents are, but they don't actually realize they're getting a good deal relative to purchasing. That's not to say, and if you're in that boat though, you do have to recognize that, if you're not buying that condo, you might not have any real estate asset. And in which case, if real estate prices start escalating, then there's a good chance to be priced out. So that's a slightly different story altogether. But I just want to illustrate that same concept where it's cheaper to be a tenant than it is to be a homeowner. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
And coming back to your example, your own personal example, mine was just like this, actually. Here, let me add one more. A 4th unit here. And, I lived in one of these. Here, let me randomly choose this one. So this is where Matt lived. Right? And so This is a whole other concept worth exploring too. It's called house hacking, right? That's what the trendy term on TikTok or whatever. That's what the crazy kids are calling it these days, right? But I multiple units. I lived in one. I rented out the others. That is another way to keep your costs down. You're sacrificing some of the personal liberties in order to get to a better financial outcome. But maybe that's something it's worth sacrificing. So again, there's no one size fits all. It depends on you, your situation. Something like this might not work for you if you have a family, for example. But this is why we go through these different scenarios with you when you're a Volition client.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I hope it's obvious, but here at Volition, we take a much deeper look at strategies beyond just being plain old realtors. It's really that intersection between personal finance and real estate investing, which we specialize in. And so if you're interested in learning more about this or how this might work for you, book a call with us. We're happy to have a chat, or come see us at one of our IRL monthly meetings. We have them usually once a month, and it's a great place to not just learn, but meet other people with a similar investor mindset. Now, one of the most common questions we get from homeowners is, how do I access the capital that's in my property? Should I sell it? Should I get a HELOC? And frankly, most of these folks are doing this to get cash flow. They want $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month, and they think they need to sell their property or get a big HELOC in order to do that. But there are actually much better ways to do this, and if you're interested in learning about this, watch our next video where we'll talk about a great technique to get that access to that capital and turn it into cash flow. See you over there.